Beginning the list at number 10 is she was a member of the Bloods gang. Rumors started after Cardi dropped her single called Bodak Yellow, where she rapped the phrase, "These is bloody shoes." People started to claim that she had connections with the gang, or she did in the past. But the rapper herself later confirmed it during an interview with GQ. She was part of the gang, in some ways still is, and yes, she regrets ever getting involved. She told her story saying, I quote, "When I was 16 years old, I used to hang out with a lot of agonizing cliff diver bloods. I used to pop off with my homies and they'd say, yo, you really get it poppin', you should come home, you should turn blood. And I did. Yes, I did." She describes it and says it is similar to a fraternity or a sorority. It wasn't about the violence or money for her, but she wants young girls to know that they should not join one. Cardi remained silent about it for so long because she didn't want to lose endorsement deals or have it affect the chances at her getting a big signed contract deal. Now that she has that, she said, "I wouldn't want a young person, a young girl, to think it is okay to join it." Despite it not rooting Cardi's career, once you have that connection to a gang, it never goes away, and it can be incredibly dangerous. Up next, number 9 is she doesn't have a driver's license. She's no problem rapping about expensive cars, and she even owns Lamborghinis and Bentleys of her own, but usually people who drive these sorts of cars have their driver's license because they want to drive them. She is not one of these people. She's openly talked about the fact that she owns 5 wildly expensive cars that she can't even drive. And she proved it to the world during an episode of Carpool Karaoke where she got behind the wheel of James Corden's Range Rover in a parking lot, of course. They had set up cones and flags to try and teach her how to drive through a mini driving course, but she failed miserably. They even had her try to parallel park for the first time, and she ended up backing up over a camera. But James asked her what we are all wondering: why own so many cars if you can't even drive them? She responded by saying, to take pictures with. Apparently, she couldn't rap about having expensive cars before owning them. She said that she was being an imposter. The reason for not getting her license is also very simple. She said that she's scared. Driving makes her scared. Sliding into number 8 is her body swells when she goes on a plane. Now, it's a pretty common thing for people's feet to swell on airplanes. Basically, all the liquids in your body sink to your feet during the altitude change. But the reason for Cardi's swelling is a bit more serious because it comes to her plastic surgery. In May of this year, Cardi had to cancel some of her shows to properly recover from her plastic surgery. She had some post-pregnancy work done on her breasts and her stomach. But after flying one day, she posted a close-up video that showed her ankles and feet severely swollen. In the video, she said that it was a scary side effect from her recent liposuction and breast augmentation. In the video, she said, "My doctor was like, yo, you cannot be doing all these shows because you're not fully healed. I gotta get better. The way that my body be swelling up when I catch planes and it's scary that I be freaking out." Dr. Shermack explained that even though the surgery was done to her stomach and her breasts, the swelling is all gravitational and it is very common, so Cardi will be just fine. In the number 7 spot is she has a younger sister. For some reason, I just assumed that Cardi didn't have any siblings. I'm not really sure why. I don't think she talks about her that much. I don't know. I was just left in the dark when it came to her having siblings. She has a younger sister named Hennessy. And no, that is not a made up name like Cardi's. Her real name is Hennessy Carolina. Like her older sister, she too is becoming a star, but for a different talent. Hennessy is now a social media star after she started uploading a series of videos about her career as a stripper. Some of them went viral on Instagram and TikTok. The 22-year-old sounds just like Cardi. They share a lot of those crazy sounds and facial expressions and that very interesting slang. When asked how she got her name, she says it came from her dad, who went straight to the delivery room after a party where he had been drinking his favorite, Hennessy. He suggested it as their daughter's new name, and apparently Cardi's mom also really liked it, so they went with it. And at number 6 is, how did Cardi B get her name? We've all wondered this at some point in time. There is no way this girl's real name is Cardi B. Her real birth name is Belcalis Marlenis Almanzar, which was chosen by her parents when she was born in the Bronx. She didn't switch her name until she started to pursue her career as a rapper. Because her sister's name is Hennessy, she says that everyone they grew up with used to call her Bacardi. Hennessy, Bacardi, get it? So when she was growing up in New York, she was known as Bacardi, which she actually liked. That's why she had no hesitation when it came to picking a rapper name. She told Wendy Williams, "Then I shortened it to Cardi B. The B stands for whatever, depending on the day." I personally thought the B stood for Bacardi, but apparently it has meant a number of different things. One of them I won't say because it will just get bleeped out, but I'm sure you can figure it out. Halfway through at number 5 is her first album she bought was Missy Elliott. I've always wondered what famous artists listen to. Like, do they listen to their own songs? Do they have celebrity crushes on other celebrities? And if they're a rapper, does that mean they only listen to rap music? Or do they country, pop? Like, these are actual valid questions that I have. But Cardi was once a regular girl like all of us, and we all have our own taste in music. Growing up, we would buy our favorite CDs, or we would download songs onto an MP3 player. Well, in my generation, anyways. Turns out Cardi's first album was Missy Elliott, and she has been fangirling over her ever since. She has no problem admitting that she looked up to her, and she is what inspired her own music career, which is why she freaked the F out when she finally got to meet her. She met her at the Warner Music Group pre-Grammy party and snapped a picture with her. After posing for the picture, Cardi filmed a video of her screaming, "I met Missy Elliott, I'm a hype." Missy just smiles in the video, and Cardi looks like the happiest person on earth. Like a kid seeing Disneyland for the first time. Moving on to number 4 with she went to college but dropped out. People often make comments to the rapper saying that she isn't educated, but she did actually attend school for some time. She attended Renaissance High School for Musical Theater and Technology, which was a small specialty school on the Herbert H. Lehman campus. Cardi actually loved going to school, and she was bummed when she had to drop out. She has opened up about her past and explained that she once had a dream of being a history teacher, but had to leave school because she couldn't afford it any longer. She just couldn't support herself. But she hasn't given up on getting an education. She recently revealed that she still aims on going back to school. She said, "Maybe when I'm older I'll have time to go to college. Why not? It's never too late to make your dreams come true. Sometimes it's just a matter of juggling things to create the right atmosphere and the perfect conditions." Cardi also admitted that leaving college gave her the time and opportunity to get caught up in music, so maybe it all happened for a reason. But before we move on to another number, you guys need to see this clip of 16-year-old Cardi B performing a Lady Gaga song at her school talent show. Okay, you guys, in the third spot is she got plastic surgery at 19 years old. If there's one thing Cardi doesn't hide, it's all the plastic surgery that she has gotten. She flaunts it, she talks about it, she fully admits it to her fans. She even shared that the first time she ever went under the knife was at 19 years old. During that time of her life, she was working as a stripper, so she felt that it would enhance her career. She got breast implants done and butt injections. She was making enough money from the strip club so that she could fund the surgeries on her own. She actually got illegal injections that were not FDA approved and not administered by a doctor. But she says she was just so desperate for a bigger booty from the pressures of being a stripper. So needless to say, her life at 19 years old was a lot different than the majority of ours. I was working at Tim Hortons trying to pay for my cell phone bill, and she's out here stripping for a boob job. What a world. Here at number 2 we have the fact that she used to work at a grocery store. Cardi wasn't always a rapper, and she wasn't always a stripper. Surely she had a first job like the rest of us, right? She did. She was a cashier at the grocery supermarket, which basically sold all organic stuff. That was her description of it. But she ended up getting fired from her job because she was showing up late too often and was giving her coworkers way too many discounts. It was actually the manager from the supermarket that suggested she become a stripper. Cardi spoke on it and said, "The manager from the Amish marketplace said, 'You're so pretty and you have such a nice body. Why don't you go across the street and work at Private Eyes?'" She explained that she was hesitant at first because she thought strip clubs meant that you had to have sex with people, but when she found out what it was, she decided to go for it. And to her it paid off because in just one day at the strip club she made more than a week's pay at the market. Speaking of stripping, at number 1 is stripping saved her life. It is no secret that she made a living from being an exotic dancer, but she claims that it was a saving grace at that point in her life. She was kicked out of her mom's house, so she moved in with an abusive ex-boyfriend's home where he lived with his sisters and dogs. She revealed that the home was filled with bed bugs and she had horrible asthma due to the 2 pit bulls that he had. His sister would also steal the little bit of money and weed that she had, and she just said that she felt trapped. Even though he was cheating on her and abusing her, she said that she had nowhere to go because she literally couldn't afford it. It was actually stripping that gave her the financial freedom and confidence that she needed to get back on her own 2 feet and move out of that place. From there, she was able to create a life of her own, and that is when she started to get noticed online. So she left the strip club and started hosting club events as an Instagram influencer. Starting off the list, number 10 is Lizzo is not her real name. Well, I'll be damned. The 31-year-old is really making a name for herself in the music industry right now, and it turns out that Lizzo is her stage name, which some people might have figured out by now. So what is her real name and why did she go with a Lizzo? Her real name is Melissa Vivian Jefferson. She was born in Detroit, Michigan, but later moved to Houston, Texas with her family. family. Music was a huge part of her childhood. During an interview, she said, "There was a lot of freestyling on the school bus, there was a lot of freestyling in the cafeteria, and there was a lot of freestyling on the radio. I would call into this morning show and try to get through so I could do a freestyle." Like many other kids do, Lizzo and some friends created a rap group called the Cornrow Clique. Creative. She was just 14 years old when they made the group, but they all came up with names, and that's how Lizzo started. Originally, they were gonna call her Lissa from her real name Melissa, but Jay-Z's song Izzo was popular at the time, so she changed it to Lizzo. From that moment on, she stuck to Lizzo and never looked back. I would still be Jossie Bossy if I went with my 14-year-old nickname, or Joss the Boss. So if I ever need a stage name. Coming up next at number 9 is she was homeless. When we see people who are as successful as her, it's hard to picture their life before they landed themselves in Hollywood spotlight. Before she became the sassy singer we know her as now, she was once a musician who was desperately trying to make it. She's currently worth an estimated $2.3 million and is taking the music charts by storm. But before any of her success, there was a time in her 20s when she was homeless for 2 years. She spoke with The Sun about it and said, "It sucked. It was very lonely, it was very hard, and I think that I had risked it all for music." But somehow she still went on to call herself privileged through all of it. She explained and said that she felt privileged at the time for being able to sleep on the floor of her drummer's house, sleep in her sister's car, and being able to sneak into the 24-hour fitness gym to use the showers. Bless her soul. What a saint. Sliding to the number 8 spot is she was trained in classical music. The hip-hop artist took the world by storm when she whipped out a flute on stage and played it. And not in like some sort of fun comedy sketch way, she actually played the flute, and she's incredibly skilled with it. Turns out the artist is trying to bring the flute along with classical music into the current hip-hop generation. She started learning how to play the flute at a very young age and joined the marching band at school. She later went on to Houston University, where she majored with a music scholarship to train in classical flute performance. I didn't even know that they offered programs for flute. When she first showed off her flute skills, people were quick to call it fake, saying that she was just pretending to play. And like anyone else would be, she was frustrated. She trained in classical music and has played the flute for 20 years. Imagine someone trying to take that from you and saying you're faking it. Lizzo clapped back by posting an acrobatic flute riff on her Instagram, and she captioned it, "For the weirdos that think I have the time to fabricate a flute backstory, rent a flute to tour with, and pretend to play." That's right, she uses her own flute, and it even has its own Instagram account. Her name is Sasha, and if you want to follow it for some weird reason, the handle is @SashaBeFluting. In the number 7 spot is she lost her dad. Lizzo has openly talked about her father's death and the fact that she was the last one to find out when it happened. Her father Michael was in his 50s when he suddenly passed away. Lizzo was actually living in a different city than her family when she got the news that he had died, but she explains that she was the last person to find out about it because she missed the call. She just so happened to be showering at the time that the news broke, and when she got out of the shower, she had a bunch of missed calls and texts, so she ended up getting a hold of her sister, who told her the news. She talks about it so openly because he is the reason she pursued music and took up the iconic flute playing. She says that he always encouraged her to continue playing the flute, no matter how uncool people said it was, and he was super supportive of her music dreams. At his service, she said goodbye by playing a heart-wrenching and beautiful tribute on her flute. At number 6, we have Lizzo was on reality TV. 2019 has been quite the year for her. She's been burning up the charts and slaying on the award show stages. But some of her fans might have seen her in a very unexpected place. She actually performed on the show called Made in Chelsea back in 2014. In her scene, she was performing a song during a cutaway scene while the rest of the cast is dancing to the music. Jamie Lang, Lucy Watson, and Binky Felstead can all be seen in the crowd as Lizzo belts out a rendition of Blondie's Rapture. She looks hella different too. She's rocking some mane of blonde curls on the show. Definitely not somewhere you would expect to see her, and definitely not the hair you would expect to see her wearing. But I guess we all start somewhere. Halfway through the list, number 5 is the big girls. Now, one thing we all know by now is that Lizzo is a huge advocate when it comes to body acceptance, love, and positivity. She flaunts her size and encourages others to do the same, to love yourself no matter what the world defines as beautiful. She even wrote a song about it called My Skin, which she says is the thesis statement to her second album. Back in March 2015, Lizzo posted a casting looking for backup dancers, but she wasn't just looking for anyone, she wanted some big girls. But don't worry, she didn't only want big girls, she just encouraged it. She posted the casting on Facebook and it said, "Attention big girls, Lizzo is looking for backup dancers, looking for girls of all shapes and sizes, curvy girls A+. Lizzo has since talked about it and admits that she wanted curvy girls to feel encouraged and comfortable with the auditions, and that is how her backup dancers got the name The Big Girls, spelt with 3 R's. What can she say? She likes her dancers to have curves. All her backup dancers right now are made up of plus-size dance artists, but let's be clear, it is probably Hollywood's definition of plus size and not mine. You may not have realized that this was all done on purpose and was supposed to go hand in hand about what Lizzo promotes about body image. Here we are, number 4, with she hosted a show. Look at her go, trying on different hats in the industry. Back in 2016, it was announced that she was casted to host the MTV series called Wonderland. It was a weekly music-based show that also included some stand-up comedy. She posted a self-drawn portrait of her and her co-host and told her followers about the new gig. The show was created to provide a platform for artists to express and reveal who they are in whatever kind of performance they wanted. Lizzo was the host of the show and was perfect for the part, which is why it was such a shame that the show was later cancelled and we didn't see her come back in a later season, because there wasn't one. Alright, we are at number 3 with the fact that she didn't write Truth Hurts. This song has actually been out for more than 2 years, but it wasn't until this year did it make its way onto the Billboard Hot 100 list. After the song blew up and Lizzo shared the achievement on Instagram, a music producer named Justin Raisin came forward claiming that it was actually his. He posted a video to his Instagram saying that she plagiarized a song he wrote during a writing session back in 2017 called Healthy. He compared the songs and showed that they have similar riffs and both start with the legendary line, "I just took a DNA test, turns out I'm 100% that." Now, at first I was like, oh, now you want to come out and say that it's yours because it's a massive success? But apparently he's actually been trying to fight for credits for the past 2 years, and he put this song in dispute when it first came out back in 2017. Lizzo has explained that the line actually came from a tweet meme that she saw online that made her feel like she was 100% that. So she sang the line during the demo and then later used it for her song. So she's giving a songwriting credit to the person who created the initial tweet. And that's it. And spot number 2 is she doesn't identify with gender or sexuality. Just another reason why a lot of people adore her. She promotes body positivity, but she's also a huge advocate for the LGBTQ community. She often encourages people to be whoever they want and to own it. During an interview with Teen Vogue, she explained that she herself does not conform to a certain gender or sexuality. She said, "When it comes to sexuality or gender, I personally don't ascribe to just one thing. I cannot sit here right now and tell you that I'm just one thing. That's why the colors for LGBTQ are a rainbow, because there's a spectrum, and right now we try to keep it black and white. That's just not working for me." She was named one of the top 50 people on the Pride 50 list, which is a list of people who actively ensure that society remains moving towards equality. And being the clever girl that she is, she even came up with a fun nickname for her fans. She calls them the Lesbians. Taking the number 1 spot on the list is she collabed with Prince. The rare occasion and honor happened for Lizzo back in 2014 when she was just a rising star. Somehow her dreams came true and she did a collaboration with the icon Prince on the song called Boy Trouble. It was written for his 2014 album that has a title that I cannot really say, but I will try anyways. Plectrum Electrum. I think that's right. The song also featured Lizzo's former bandmates Sophia Iris and Claire DeLune. When talking about the experience, she said it was like a fairy tale to her, as it probably would be for most of us. She also said that it was the moment that she felt some kind of validation as an artist, and that was when she was just getting started. So that's pretty impressive. Starting off the list, number 10 is her real name, the reason she changed it, and why she hates it. It's common for artists to change the real name to something that works better as a stage name, but normally it's by choice and they pick one that they really like. Nicki's real name is Onika Tanya Mirage. Not exactly a boring name. I actually really like it. She claims that she didn't want to change her name, but said that her record label forced her to. They chose Minaj because it was close to Mirage and it would feel like she's keeping part of her surname. But she doesn't feel that way at all. She actually hates the name change. During an interview with Vogue, she said, "Somebody changed my name. One of the first production deals I signed, the guy wanted my name to be Minaj and I fought him tooth and nail, but he convinced me. I've always hated it." Well, I guess it is too late to go back on that now. Although I feel like she could change her name and people would still go with it. I'd call her by another name. Next up at number 9 is Nicki used to have multiple personalities. We all know her as one character she's played up with her rap artist stage name. The nails, the wigs, the outfits, the twerking. But back when she was a kid, she took on different personas. Now I know what you're thinking. We all probably used our imagination like that as a kid. I mean, I still pretend I'm Miley Cyrus sometimes, but she didn't take on personas as some kind of game. She actually did it to escape from her rough home environment. She would turn herself into a character and be be somebody completely different as a form of release and escape. During an interview with New York Magazine in 2010, she revealed that she would act out 15 different characters. She said, "To get away from all my parents fighting, I would imagine being a new person. Cookie was my first identity and stayed with me for a while. Then I went on to Harajuku Barbie, then Nicki Minaj. Fantasy was my reality." Honestly, sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do to get through something. So whatever, I'm cool with it. Sliding to the number 8 spot is she was fired from her first job. Something that seems so simple, yet we always forget that celebrities all started as regular people at one point in her life. We all have to start somewhere. I mean, my first job was at Tim Hortons when I was 15 years old. Tell me in the comments what your first job was. I actually really want to know. Nicki's first job was working as a waitress at the Red Lobster in the Bronx, New York. She said she applied there as a teenager so she could earn some extra cash on the weekends. As teenagers, we all want that extra spending money, but the restaurant ended up giving her the boot because she didn't have a good reputation with the customers. Apparently her customer service was often poor and her attitude got her in trouble. I bet they didn't realize who that teenager was gonna be one day. I wonder if she went back if they would give her free food and stuff now that she's like a big shot, although she was fired. So I'm not really sure. Cruising into the number 7 spot is she was discovered through MySpace. Everyone has a success story, and I personally had no idea how Nicki ever got noticed. She just kind of showed up. She was once an artist who was determined to make it, so she started by doing backup singing roles for local New York City rappers. From her experience doing that, she started to write her own material, and like most of us during that time, she was sharing her life and her music on her MySpace page, which was eventually discovered by Dirty Money CEO Fendi. He loved what he heard and signed her to his label. That connection led Nicki to Lil Wayne, who collaborated with her on a series of mixtapes. First one was Playtime Is Over, which came out in April 2007. They released a few mixtapes over the next couple of years before she signed to Lil Wayne's Young Money label in August 2009. She was actually the first ever female artist on his label, and basically the rest is history. Long story short, she became a big star after that. So never underestimate the power of sharing your talents on social media. You never know who's watching. I'm gonna start putting my bird calls on there. And at number 6 is she wanted to be an actress. This probably stems from all the personalities that she was once impersonating in her personal life to escape from her family issues. But she actually took her passion quite seriously at the time. She went to LaGuardia High School in Queens, New York and studied acting. Apparently, she was turned down when she submitted for their singing program. Joke is on them. Nicki admits that Meryl Streep has always been one of her biggest idols and is the one person that would leave her speechless. In 2001, she was cast in her first off-Broadway show called In Case You Forget. At the time, she thought it was going to be the start of her career, but it never really took off after that. It was actually after that she turned to working other jobs and shared her music online. Halfway through the list, number 5 is she is obsessed with stuffed animals. Now, you might think you just figured she likes stuffed animals based on some of her crazy set pieces, props, and costumes, but turns out it's much more than that. She's actually obsessed with them, and for those who don't know me well yet, so am I. I have a collection of stuffed animals, and I literally treat them like my own children. So basically, all I'm saying is, Nicki, I can relate. The 36-year-old has a few monkey stuffed animals that she carries around and also treats them like her kids. During an interview, she confessed that she carries 7 stuffed animals around with her whenever she travels long distances. She openly admitted that she will even have a conversation with them when she's alone. I do that too. I sound like a psychopath right now. One time, she lost her favorite pink stuffed monkey named Oscar at the airport, and she offered a $50,000 reward if anyone found him. Tell me she's not obsessed. This is a real sickness, y'all, and I have it. I would literally cry physical tears if anything happened to my stuffed animals. I would probably cry over my stuffed animals more than my actual dog. And like, I'm not even kidding. That's so messed up. Here we are, number 4, with where she was born. Most people think she was born in New York because that is where she spent most of her life growing up. But turns out she was actually born on December 8th, 1982 in St. James, Trinidad and Tobago, and moved to New York with her family when she was just 5 years old. People are also surprised when they hear that the artist has an Indian connection. Both of her parents come from mixed origins. Her dad, Robert Mirage, is from Indo-Trinidadian origins, and her mother, Carol Mirage, is from Afro-Trinidadian descent, which makes Minaj a 1/4 Indian. which is actually pretty cool. In the third spot is the fact that she used to be managed by Waka Flocka's mom. True story. Waka Flocka's mom, Deborah Antony, was Nicki's manager at one point in time before she got fired in 2010. Not gonna lie, I didn't even know that this was her profession, never really heard of her, but apparently she's also managed people like Gucci Mane. It made headlines back in 2010 that Nicki fired her without any explanation. Deborah spoke on it and said she received a letter that was a suspension at first, but then another letter followed that one and it was a cease and desist from Nicki's attorney stating that she can no longer do business with Nicki Minaj. Is that even legal? I feel like you can't just drop someone like that. But Deborah didn't hold any grudges on the situation and also said, "I love Nicki. I wish her the most success. It's not about the music. She is like one of my children. I wish her no harm, only much success." Well, damn. She handled that a lot better than I would have probably. In spot number 2 is her cousin was shot and killed. Like everyone else, Nicki has faced loss in her own personal life, and although the story made headlines, most people never knew it happened or they've completely forgotten about it. It was in July 2011 when Nicki took it to Twitter to tell her fans that her cousin Nicholas was murdered near his home in Brooklyn, New York. Police had found the 27-year-old with multiple gunshot wounds to his upper torso. It was later revealed that they believed he was murdered because of a case of mistaken identity. They didn't think he was the intended victim of the shooting, as he was not known to mix with gang members. This loss has made Nicki passionate about fighting for gun laws and people's rights, and since the incident she has gone on to use it as a very positive thing. Gotta give her credit where credit is due. That would be really tough to overcome. In the number 1 spot is the story behind The Boy. Taylor Swift has shown us that all artists will sometimes use their own personal experience to come up with lyrics to their songs, and Nicki's song The Boy does just that. But it is not about some ex-boyfriend of hers. It was actually inspired by the domestic violence she witnessed in her home as a kid. Her dad would physically abuse her mother, and at one point he actually tried to burn down their house. Like, legit. After the incident, Nicki went to live with her grandmother as a way to protect her. Nicki openly talks about her past and says it is the reason why she wants women to feel empowered. She is a huge advocate for women's rights, and although her grandmother was the one who brought her up, she does remain very close with her mom still. You can actually watch her documentary called Queen to see her open up about the abusive home she grew up in. I've actually watched some parts of it, and it's honestly crazy to see her in such a different light than what we see her in the media. Megan Morgan says Jack could have fit on that door, she just didn't want to move over. I agree. There was totally room for Jack on the door with Rose, but would she really want him to die? Like, move over, make some room. North 40 says, is your older sister fire emoji like you? She's actually hotter than me. Both of them are. Mama Pink says, note to self, do not Google things that Joss tells you not to Google. Yes, that is why you need to listen to what I say. I am trying to help you. Ginger Goddess says, a dirty mind is a terrible thing to waste, so use it often. Words to live by. Although it's a little creepy. Miki Thomas says, you probably love to hate her. I automatically love that line. It is so true, man. People be hating so much that it's like they enjoy hating on her. So you actually hate to love, no, you love to hate her. Big Daddy Sam says, man, TV characters be disappearing like Houdini, lol. Honestly, I so badly wish that I thought of this joke on my own and that I used it in that last video. That's clever. Colin Featherstone says, what about Jamie Spears from Zoe 101? She actually didn't mysteriously disappear. She got pregnant at 16 or 15 or something like that, and it made news headlines. So it wasn't a mystery at all. Marissa Bones says, didn't get much closure. Story of a female's life. Do we ever get much closure? I feel like I'm just like putting my own personal issues on everyone else, but hey. Kelly Savage says, Jocelyn, you are the best. I love your upbeat, cheery personality. Keep up the great work. Thanks. I'm honestly not always this cheery though. You can just ask Chris. I have an attitude problem. Kelly Gray says, Jason Earls was hilarious. Yep, he was one of my faves for sure. Honestly, he played that role perfectly. Del Marie Walker says, I love the movie Jaws. Joss, you keep it alive, girl. Keep going, bless up. I love the movie Jaws too, and this is the type of hype squad I need in my life. G-Eazy says, I would love to hate you. Honestly, I would tell you to join the club, but there is a really long wait list to even get in. It's packed with haters. Papa Bear. I don't even know what it was. A little slide shuffle. My dad would be so proud. Footwork. Thanks, Dad. That was great. I should be a rapper. Oh, hashtag Cardi T. Yo, you should be a rapper. You want to do this video for me? Because that was good. Yeah, you want to switch? Because I suck. Whatever, who cares? I wish my name had a cool story like that. What the hell is Jocelyn? And sounds like witch. That's how I was when I saw Miley Cyrus in concert. I cried. Physical tears. Cried. Almost fainted. Speaking of school, I need to go back. Mitchie. Truth hurts and so exciting. Bum bum be dum be bum bum. From like the section. I like it. Oh, it sounds like a trumpet. I can make bird calls, I have a new talent. God, someone hire me. Starting off but then another letter. Why can't I say another letter?